you for inviting me. Thank you
No,
for
no
inviting
problem
me.
at all. Now, the problem is, let me see if I can, no, I probably can't. Hey, there is Suzanne. Suzanne, how are you?
Suzanne is there? Okay.
Yeah, yeah, she is. She is.
Okay, nice,
All right.
nice.
So, I have some videos that I actually uh, kind of a stacked presentation that I wanted to show a little bit of the agenda
Okay.
for today. And so what I wanted to talk about was, the context of the production of barrels.
Okay.
I wanted to then talk about the use of barrels within customer environments.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to talk about that within the context of your family, your family history,
Yeah.
and the production. There's an echo that I'm getting here. But once
Okay.
I stop speaking, it'll probably go away.
Okay.
So why don't we begin? Tell us a little bit about yourself and the family history.
Okay. So again, thanks for inviting me and for giving me the opportunity to talk about a bit about our cooperage and our family. I'm the 7th generation cooper. So we have been making barrels and cask and fermenters here, always here in the same village in Castellalfero, which is like 7-8 kilometers, so 5 miles from Asti, in Piedmont, so northwest of Italy, close to Barolo, Barbaresco. We are actually more in the Barbera area. But it's like half an hour from Barbaresco. We have been always very close to all the the wineries in our region, in our area, and then we have little by little from my grandfather. So 2 generations ago, we started to try to develop and to increase our business, not just here in Piedmont, trying to go a bit more out of the borders of our region, so trying to reach Tuscany and all over Italy. Then from my entrance in the company in 1999, 2000, full time after university, we tried to develop our market abroad as well, trying to not to keep all the eggs in one basket. So trying to develop the markets of United States, so Sonoma, Napa, state of Washington, Oregon, Australia, Chile, Argentina, Uruguay, Israel, all the wine countries, South Africa. And so we have seen, at the end of the day, the wineries have always been keen on asking for quality about the wood, well-aged wood, naturally aged wood, and that says it has always been our idea, our philosophy to make the first thing is to age the wood well. So without trying to rush it, to accelerate the process, but leaving the time. Like a good wine, it's the same thing at the end of the day.
So you mentioned customers. So is your product designed to fit a customer need, or you have a product and the customer comes to you and buys and determines whether that product fits their need?
Usually, my job, my objective is trying to visit customers and trying to understand what they need do, and together with them trying to make something which is usually tailor-made, because it's mainly on the barrels. It's easy to say, okay, let's do like a Thai grain oak, French oak, medium toast, or something like that. But it's more trying to understand what they need and what they are looking for, and also mainly on the big cask, on the Botti, on the big cask. round or oval, it doesn't matter. It's important to understand the dimensions, the size. They are all really tailor-made, to fit in the different rooms in maybe castle or
right.
in the cellar.
So you're not making product to inventory. You're making to order.
A bit on the barrels, actually.
Okay.
A bit on the barrels, while on the big cask, no, everything is made on demand. That's important because the barrels, at the end of the day, we have like what can be like 5, 6, maybe 7 different sizes, 225 liters. Well, I don't know, in gallons it can be 60 gallons probably, something like that. So there are like 225, 300, 350, 500, 6, 7 different kinds. While on the big cask, no, everything is custom made.
So how does a customer, so like for example, last year I was at Gaia, and I've been there 5 years ago, and then they've done they've redone some stuff, and they have a variety of platforms within their environment. So when a customer is deciding to either add or change, they're looking at a bunch of different coopers and they bring them in. And what is that selection process? And how does a Gamba pitch into that? Is it a competitive bid environment, or they know you and they love you?
No. It is always very competitive everywhere in the world. I mean, mainly for the barrels, it is maybe even more competitive because it is not that weird or uncommon, let's say, to find wineries, mainly in Napa, where there are 15 or 20 coopers in the winery. So I'm not afraid of that. I mean, we like competition. So it's also a way to improve, to try to do the best you can. And try to work. We want to work hard, so we are used to that. So trying to improve, and we think that in the last 25 years, or 30 years, let's say, like something like that, all the coopers, we all have a better perception of the relation, let's say, fire, wood for the toasting, how to age the wood better. So it's all a matter of, and the same for the cask, same thing. So it's.
So how do you guys play into, or what role do you play? Are you leaders, or are you sitting back and taking direction when these major movements are going through the wine scene? So, for example, there in Italy, you had the modernist versus the traditionalist. And that is happening, in Spain. It's So, what role do you play as a company in that? Are you sitting back and taking advice and counsel, or are you help to drive the ball forward?
Let's say that we make buff barrels and big casks, and we have always made that. And it is like our tradition, mainly in Piedmont. It has always been like making casks, the round ovals, big casks. It has always been a big tradition for us. So let's say that I believe it is a cycle. So more than talking about people traditionalist or modernist, I believe there is just now a better perception of what is the use of a barrel here in Italy, in Piedmont, by Italy in general, knowing that it is like a cellar tool. It's a tool that they have in the cellar that can be fine or not, depending on the wines they are doing, and depending on the grade as well. We have seen, like in the last, as you were mentioning before, if we talk about the modernist and traditionalist, the big fight has always been here in Barolo and Barbaresco, in the Langhe area, about one side or the other. And we have seen that, as a matter of fact, in the last, let's say, 5, 6 years, maybe a bit more, there has been a big shift, a big return to the big cask,
Yeah.
and for the Nebbiolo grape, and
Yeah.
that's what we are seeing every day.
Yeah,
And
I think I saw Marcelino or someone
yeah, same.
just recently bringing in some big casks.
Yeah, we need
Yeah.
we need to make some more, but it's we're like there has always been, like, as a customer, Giacosa Bruno, always
Yeah.
using big cask,
Yeah.
and but many customers from Gaia, for Mussolini is another one, but there are many that
Yeah.
have been Vietti, or many using probably more big cask, and coming a bit back on the barrel. This is probably also a matter of knowing a bit more about the barrel, the barrique, the barrel as a tool.
Yeah.
So maybe like in Napa, we are saying that on Cabernet, on the Bordeaux blend, on the Bordeaux varieties, it is always the same. So it's always 225 liters barrel, and mainly the majority of the time it is a Chateau barrel, so a 22 millimeter of thickness. So it's a cycle as well, probably.
Yeah. So do you find yourselves evangelizing in one versus the other? So you guys know that the big barrels work really well for some applications in Piedmont. Do you ever find yourself going to some guys in Napa and saying, "Hey, have you ever thought of using a big?"
No, because it's not. Well, it's not my. Evangelizing one thing rather than another.
Yeah.
It's better to, in my opinion, to tell them and to explain what then they know for sure.
Yeah.
Maybe even better than me. But it's what a barrel or a cask can do to their wine, and also another big thing, a big let's say a big point for the cask. For our cask mainly, it is that we can make them untoasted.
Yeah.
And mainly with the wine that we have here, like on the Nebbiolo grapes, so Barolo and Barbaresco, or like Gemme, Gattinara, for example, there is a big demand for having cask untoasted.
Okay.
And that's interesting because if you make, just for our technique for how we make the cask, it's interesting because if you use untoasted cask, maybe you have a bit more tannins, but you don't have any influence of the toasting nuances that you can have like in a barrel. So it's more like fruit.
Yeah, so I want to come back to that, because that is really critical. Well, not critical. I mean, it's important as a distinction, because I spent time looking at all those breakdown products that accrue as a result of toasting, and the contribution that makes then to the finished wine. And so folks who are using untoasted oak, they're eschewing all of those flavors, as you say, almost for the fruit. So I want to come back and talk to that a little later on, but I want to give you a chance first off to talk about the thing that you do and your reason for being. Well, the process that you go through in terms of construction of the barrel, beginning with, your choice. And again, I had made such a pretty chart of all the forests that you guys get your lumber from, and I'm, But so talk about, your choice of oak. What is oak? Why is oak the cooperage of choice in wine applications? What makes a good a good choice of wood? How do you guys go about acquiring your product, your production process, and then your product line at the end of the day?
Let's say that if we go back in times, every cooper everywhere in the world, so let's say Italy, Spain, and France, or Eastern Europe is the same. We were all using, if we go back to my great-grandfather, we were using all the the timber of the the timber of the region. So it could be acacia, it could be chestnut, it could be like oak, it can be other kind of timber that everyone was having in the region close. Mm-hmm. So then, with the passing of time, we have understood that the oak as a timber is probably, that's more than probably for sure, is the best in terms of the impact, the transfer that it can have on the wine. Then we have seen that French oak is probably, in terms of consistency, is the best in to the wine, because they cut the trees like starting from Colbert, so the 1600, they start to cut the trees, and it is sustainable, and so consistency, and they're consistently better in quality. Mm-hmm. There are other timber like acacia that are used now mainly for white wines like Sauvignon Blanc, Semillon. I have customer in Australia using that on Semillon, or on Chardonnay, some on Arnaise here. Other timber, going back to your question, let's say cherrywood, mm-hmm. but it has many tannins, and it's not, it's difficult. It is a fruit, so it grows a bit twisting, and it can have big problems of leaks. And also from an enological point of view, in the tasting is not, I'm not seeing that interesting, but I know wineries using a bit of cherrywood. There is chestnut, which is very, very tannic, and there's a lot of nuts, and was a lot used in the past for transportation, mm-hmm. but now it is almost gone, so there is no more use at all, almost no more use at all. So at the end, oak is the king. So 99.9% of the wine in the world is made in oak. Then it can be American oak, French oak, Eastern European oak, but it's at the end it is oak.
So what's the key differentiator to you between, and when you say American oak, you're talking about not, I just saw an application for Oregon oak, which it's a bit
different.
It's a bit different, yeah. So what are some of the key differentiators? Because you guys buy a lot of French oak based on your website. You get from all the forests in France. You have like beautiful language around the oak that you select. Yeah. So tell me about some of the qualities that it possesses.
Let's say that we buy out of the oak that we buy, 98% of the oak is French oak, and 2%, 2% of the oak is American oak. The American oak that we are buying, it is coming from Iowa or Minnesota. So we made that choice because being very cold, the weather there, as you know, the trees are growing a bit, more slowly, and so they are a bit tighter grain. So we are not interested in making barrels for whiskey. So we make a bit of American oak barrels just for wine. So we're interested to buy the best American oak possible. I know something about the oak from Oregon. They told me it is a bit different. So probably it's not really Quercus alba. It's a bit different, but I don't have so much, and I've never tried that. So I know it is very. There is a very little portion of the American oak on the market coming from Oregon. So I don't know so much about that. French oak, we know much more about that, and we buy everything from the center of France. So from the 3 departments being in the center, so Allier, Cher, and Nièvre. So Nevers is the capital town of Nièvre. So those 3 departments are the 3 most important, the 3 best departments for oak in France. And then we also buy some more oak from other departments there, from small single forests like Juppy, which is a very nice forest, which is more on northwest. Blois, which is always in that area. Fontainebleau, which is a bit south of Paris. The Vosges, which is on the side of in the northeast. So, and which has always been, Vosges, for example, has always been known, for example, for whites. It's always been very, very well used for white wines, and there are some forests very, very nice. A forest which is very well known and worldwide, and which is probably, it is the biggest forest for oak in France, and it is by far the best known in the world for wine. It is Tronchet, which is the forest in the Allier department, and it's the biggest forest in France for oak. Yeah, so that's that we have like different suppliers, so we don't split the oak. We buy the staves already split. So we have chosen not to overtake another job. So we have chosen to say, okay, we are Cooper. We know how to be Cooper, how to Cooper barrels, and so we have decided to say, okay, let's just make the barrels and let's not try to go and do the splitter, which is another job. They spend quite some months in the forest to look for the oak, to choose the trees, to select the trees, to cut them, and it's another job.
Yeah. But how do you select that person that's providing you the staves?
We have a relationship that we have been carrying on for 40 years with some splitters, and we have one or two per region, per department. And then we always, as the winery try new Cooper, we sometimes try new splitter or new sawmill for the cask. So trying to test them, to see what they are doing. And like that, we see what they do. We go to the auction, we go to check what they are doing, to understand what they're doing, what they are buying, where they are buying, and that's important to understand that they are buying in the right place, and then we physically go there and see the oak, see the staves, and I can understand from being a Cooper if a stave is a good stave, the oak, when it is a stave, more than seeing the tree, which is more the splitter job. Job of the splitter.
So I see there's a video on your website which has like an oak round and someone coming down and splitting it. What is that? I mean, isn't that like a splitting function?
That was made in our at a facility of one of our supplier, that is Gautier. Gautier. Gautier is in the Cher. Marie-Bois is a small village in the Cher department, and that is like splitting the tree, the log, to reach the single stave. They are split stave by stave. So like that, they don't interrupt the fiber, and like that it's better for the stave, where there are less risks of leaks, and for the quality of the barrel after, it is much better. So they start splitting it in 4, 6, 8 parts, slices, depending on how big is the log, and then they reach the single stave, and after that it is work. And
right. So now, do you in some of the literature I've been reading, some of the more recent literature, I've heard about low oxygen transfer rate staves and high oxygen transfer rate staves, indicating that individual staves can transfer oxygen at a higher or lower rate. So do you guys buy and or build barrels at that level, or basically you're taking your staves and you build your barrel with?
It's we are trying to. There are many studies, research made on the oxygenation of the barrels where the oxygen is going through, and usually it's difficult to say. What we are doing is trying to select the stave more than on the grain. So the grain, you know, is it is like the ear ring of the tree. So the tighter is the grain, and usually it is the less tannic is the wood.
Yeah.
And the finer is the taste, the transfer of the wood to the wine. There is like, I have customer using, for example, Limousin, which is an origin that I was not mentioning before, which is usually used, for example, here in Piedmont. It is used by some of our customers for Barbera. So Barbera is not tannic, and so a bit of Limousin can be fine because can add a bit more tannin, but I wouldn't put it on a Nebbiolo or on a Cabernet. So that is that is a selection, and also we do the selection on the age of the tree. So we buy in France mainly because it is more certain the age of the tree.
So Tom, do you guys do any testing of your barrels with wine in your shop? I mean, you can test for like porosity and a whole bunch of other stuff, but do you test? Do you have a lab there where you test?
No, we don't have a lab, but we have we do research with the University of Turin.
Okay. So you fund research.
Yeah, we do. We have done, every year we do something like trying to do something new. So like years ago, we were studying and trying to understand what it could have been the impact of steam water bent barrel rather than fire bent. So the process of after that, the wood it has been aged for 3 years. So same wood, same starting from the same wood, same lot of wood, and then starting to fire bend the barrel. So it means 20 minutes the heating, 5 minutes the bending, and then 50 minutes the toasting. And then we try to do the same with, instead of the 20 minutes of bending, trying to do 45 minutes of steam and water. And then the same thing after. And then we did a research with the university, so trying to understand what it was the effect, the transfer in terms of tannins, in terms of let's say vanillin or all those compounds that then give you that kind of toasty nuances. So vanilla, chocolate, coffee, almonds, and it was interesting because it came out the steam water bend to be much less with less impact on of the wood in terms of vanilla, of chocolate, coffee on the wine. So it was much like a much lighter toast.
So the guys in Gattinara would love that, right? I mean,
well, it's it depends on the style. I mean, it depends on like in Pinot Noir in Oregon, there are people using that. So it depends on the style you want to do. I mean, I believe on a Cabernet there is more like a trend to use more fire bent barrels, while on some other wine there is more a demand for having more, maybe having a bit more tannins helps in fixing the color. And so that's helpful, and having more fruit and less oaky, toasty nuances. It's important. So
how much do you guys work with your customers on crafting their wines? And obviously differentiating between I differentiate between barrel fermented wines and barrel aged wines. Do you work with customers a lot in terms of helping
No,
to
well,
craft their wines?
no, no, no.
No.
It is. I go tasting wines quite
Yeah.
often, but
Yeah.
we are not winemakers. So it's
Yeah.
more. I believe it is the same thing like in before with the um, with the sawmill and the splitter.
Yeah.
That's their job. Our
Yeah.
job
Yeah.
is making it being cooper
Making.
and the
Yeah.
winemaker. I mean, I believe in is everyone should make what they know.
What you know? Yeah.
What you
Yeah.
know what
Yeah. Yeah.
how to do it. So it's
So,
not
so,
trying
so,
to overtake jobs. So
right. So you're a drinker of wine, not a
yeah, well, then I studied some sommelier, but it's not like it's not my I don't want to overtake another another job. Then we are
yeah.
trying to follow the trend, the cycle,
Yeah.
and what's
Yeah.
like there is one of your guests saying like the fire bent about the Maillard reaction, and
Yeah.
this is exactly what he meant. So
Yeah.
vanilla, the almonds,
Yeah.
like what is coming there, chocolate is that's more what it comes out probably more from the fire band barrels.
Private.
Then
Yeah.
depending on how much you toast,
Yeah.
you start from zero,
Yeah.
and a barrel you can't toast it zero.
Yeah.
Like a big cask because it is bent with water. We bend it with water. We can make it,
Yeah.
and you have more the fruit of the wine. Then you go to clove, which
Yeah.
is like the eugenol, so it gives you clove. Then you go to vanilla, and then if you keep on toasting, you go to like she was writing like furanol or fronic aldates or
Yeah.
other kind of chocolate coffee. So
Yeah.
that's just to
So my screen is now moving up, so I didn't see some of these questions. So there's one. What do Gamba barrels impart to wines? But before I get to that, there's one. Suzanne had a list of questions that she wanted to be sure
okay.
that you were asked. So let me go down my list. So the first thing she wanted to be sure that you talked about your process for aging the wood. She felt that this was a key differentiator for you guys, and that we wanted to be sure to get that into the conversation. So talk about air drying versus kiln drying, and how critical that is for the product that you guys bring to the table.
And that's also can answer the other question. That's what the Gamba barrels can give to the wine. They are closely related because it's our philosophy. It has always been to try to age the wood carefully. So if we talk about the wood that we use for the barrels, it is aged for 3 years, so 36 months naturally. Then we have a line of barrel reaching also the 4 years air dried that we call the G7, which is like our signature barrel. But it's the average. It is 36 months, and that's very important because it's you don't accelerate the process to trying to have the wood ready like it could have been with a kiln, with an oven. You accelerate the process with heat, putting the wood in the kiln for well, I don't know. I don't have a kiln, so it can be for 2 months. 2 months and a half, and then you push the wood to become ready. Before that, maybe you water the wood a lot for, let's say, 1 or 2 months, 24 hours a day. And that's, I heard someone once telling me that's like it was 3 years old, because it was, and I was asking, what do you mean? It has taken the same amount of rain that the wood can take in 3 years, but it is not 3 years, because it is just, once the wood it is wet, you are not extracting anything. So you need to water the wood, then you need to wait, then you need to water the wood again, and then you need to wait, and that it dries out, and so it's a long-term process. You need to wait, and then it becomes ready. So that's a key
So what is
for the
happening
quality.
during that time that we're waiting? What's the transformation that's taking place in the wood? Number one. Number two, on your website, you mentioned that where you guys are located, it's an ideal place for that aging process. So talk a little bit about that.
It is because the location is important because of the quantity of rain. Yeah. Because if you are like, let's say, if you are in Vegas or in a desert, you are not aging the wood because you are just drying the. I'm exaggerating, just to give you an idea. So if you are in an environment where there is no rain, you are not aging anything because it's just drying the wood, and it would be like putting it in a kiln. So having like a lot of heat, a heat wave, drying the wood, reaching like 10–11% of humidity. Maybe you can use the wood, but the chemical, maybe it has changed physically, but not from a chemical point of view, because you haven't extracted any harsh tannins from inside. So what is important is trying to water the wood with rain, or during the dry summer we have a well and we water the wood, and that's important to take out the harsh tannins from inside the wood. And that's very important because like that you extract the harsh compounds that you have in the wood, and then you are not finding them after in the wine. So, and that's very important. So that's a key to on our barrels and our impact on the wine and our difference from many other. Then there are many coopers working well, and there are some cooper not working that well. I mean, not making names, but it's just a matter of the philosophy of a company so we are not taking compromises. So at the end, it's like leaving the wood there until it is ready. And ready, it means like 14–15% of humidity. And so like that physically it is ready. And then after 3 years and having washed it, quite a bit, it becomes ready. Then we made some research, and we tried to see when it is ready from the tannins point of view, and trying to understand, So it's that's the main thing. Barrels that have had, made with wood aged in kiln, usually they have a wood that has been stressed more in the aging period, and so usually in the first year they are really much here, let's say, and the second year they drop completely. So probably a natural age barrel, it is for sure it is dropping because it is nature, extracting the wine, but it is more like this rather than being like exactly.
So when you use a used barrel from a kiln dried, a 3-year barrel from a
it should be completely zero. Maybe even before the third field can be before. So that's a point that we have always seen. That I know that there are many wineries that are not interested, mainly, let's say, in Napa or in many countries. Top wineries making top wines. They are right. I'm not saying, I'm glad it is like that, but it's they are just caring about the first fill. The second year it doesn't matter because it's going to a second level. But
so
I believe
what's
it's important.
What's the price differential percentage wise then? I'm making the assumption that the that your process, obviously requires more time and effort, that your barrel pricing is probably higher than a guy who's doing a kiln
Oh
dry.
yeah, sure, for sure,
Yeah.
for sure,
And
absolutely.
10,
It,
20, 30, 40%?
I can look on the barrels. There are pricing of any kind. I mean, it's
Yeah,
amazing.
it's a competitive, yeah.
Mainly if you talk about in this period of time, I believe it would be even worse
Yeah.
because we make, just to give you an idea of the production, we make like 10,000 barrels a year,
Mm-hmm.
roughly 9,500, 10,000 barrels a year, and 300 big cask. So from big cask, I'm saying, I mean, from 1,000 liter, so 250 gallons up to what it can be 2,500 gallons.
Yeah.
That's our production. There are, and we are a medium size cooperage.
Okay.
Like there are people making 10 times our barrels. So,
okay. Yeah. So
or
what
more.
does a customer when a customer says I'm buying a Gamba product line, why is a customer buying from you? What is the customer perception of your organization?
I believe the family thing, there is a phase between the company, which is me, who is me, my father.
So they're buying you, basically.
They are buying me. No, well, they're buying the product. They're buying for sure the product. But it's true that because if it is not working as everything, people are try. If it works, it works. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I mean, we started in US in 1999, 1998, something like that, and now we are pretty well established. But the idea is that I believe it's important to have someone, a face behind the logo, first thing. So a know-how. So they are buying the know-how of the family. They are buying the wood yard, because we have many customers coming here and checking the quantity of wood we have, because it's like there are no. I have many customers coming here and telling me, I've never seen so much wood compared to the barrels you make. So that's another thing they're buying. And then they're buying the consistency, because it's useless in a blind tasting, that is pretty normal in any winery, to be the best one year and the last one the year after. It's better to be among the first 2 or 3 every year. Rather than be going up and down like this. So consistency is the key everywhere. So that's and then what I prefer to do is go see my customer, knowing them. I believe it's important. Knowing customer in US as knowing here, it's for sure easier for me. Argentina, Chile, everywhere.
So talk about your product line, and the one that I was intrigued by is the inox tank within the barrel enclosure. Talk a little bit about your product line.
It's so we, besides what we said, we also make like let's call it like an hybrid, which is like an hybrid stainless steel wood that we make for fermentation, and we studied that with a partner, which is Dizio, which is a stainless steel manufacturer in Abruzzo, so in the center of Italy, and then with Banfi, which is a long-term partner and customer in Tuscany, and so we put together in 2004. We started with this idea of starting something new, and we made this kind of research. That's another kind of research that we made to make for fermentation, to put like the part in the middle like wood, and the upper and lower part in stainless steel, so that you can put together the benefits of the stainless steel in terms of technology, temperature control, pump over, and and any kind of technological benefits that you can have from stainless steel, together with the benefits of the oak in fermentation. And then once it is the wood is exhausted and you need to change it, you just change the part in the middle. So imagine like a wool tank. They are not three separate tanks. It's just a wool tank. And we just take out the part in the middle, and it's much easier because it can be made and replaced right there in the winery. And we just replace the wood there, and it can be used again for other 7-8 years. So depending on the winery purpose. So
yeah. That product it was innovative, right? I mean, are there other products?
There is a patent. There is a patent. There is a patent on that we made it on. We put it when we started that, because the connection stainless steel wood and the fact that it can be changed very quite quickly. Yeah. It has been something unique. And for example, another research that we made, and it was an interesting thing. It was like another research that we made with a winery in California, Costa Brown, that I'm sure you know. And
a few people know them. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe so. So and it was interesting because we started with them, besides the barrels and all this kind of thing for Pinot Noir, to make a cask, which was, the winemaker was asking me why we don't make for Chardonnay, we don't make instead of making the standard oval, which is like a vertical oval, we don't study like an horizontal oval.
Yeah.
Because like that, the bed of lees, it's much, the surface of contact with the lees is much higher.
Yeah.
The bed of lees is much thinner.
Yeah.
And so there is an healthier contact. Yeah. And we wanna have make less steering, like compared to years ago where everyone wanted to make a lot of steering, batonnage in the wine to make it bolder, bigger, more buttery. And now maybe there is a research to make something more mineral, so to make a different style. And so that was working fine, and we are making others for other people. So it was interesting. My father, when he came back from US with this idea, he was asking me telling me in 50 years, this is the first time that someone is telling me that you want to make someone wants to make like an horizontal oval, because it looked like being a bit weird, but from a technical point of view, it makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah,
it makes sense.
So one of the things that it's 2:51, so an hour will be up and they'll kick us off in a little bit, but. And we haven't even gone to. So here's what I'll propose: that we do need to get together for another hour in another week or so, because we haven't even touched the use of the barrel within the customer environment.
Okay.
So what we'll do, we'll close out this hour. Not now. I still have a couple of questions, but we'll get together next week at the same time to do the downstream stuff. So one of the things that that we didn't touch on. So the barrel is one of the other products that you have. It's a barrel. And again, I don't have my because I didn't have access to my my charts. It's like Ovalero or something like that. There's a barrel that it's you have the traditional barrel, and then there's one that has I can't remember the name of it. I'll ask that question the next time we get together on that. But stepping back, barrels are oak barrels are one player in a broader scheme, right? And both on the fermentation side and on the aging side. So there are other vessels that one can use for fermentation.
Sure. Absolutely.
And there are other vessels that you can use. How do you view oak within that broader market? Is it growing? Is it standing still? Are there people making inroads into that space?
I mean, you mean for fermenters like upright tank for fermentation, for the alcoholic fermentation, you mean?
Yeah. So on both ends. So on the fermentation side, you've seen concrete,
Okay,
queries. So there are a bunch of stuff, things that you can use on that side. Is that market growing? How is oak competing on that space?
I believe it is. Oak is important because, like, from the majority of what we do, it is more for aging. Let's say that. But there is let's say at this point a stable demand for oak for fermentation. So fermenters like upright truncated cone tanks, they're always demanded, or the Horizon, how it is called, this hybrid tank that we made with Banfi and Dizio. It is so there is quite a big interest in a good interest in fermentation in oak, because I believe oak is very important. It has quite been proved that it has many benefits in during the fermentation in terms of stabilization of the color, fixing the color, anthocyanins and tannins, and so that's very important. It is true that in the last years, concrete it is increased for sure. I mean, I start seeing, like, in Napa the eggs years ago, and in France, and also here there are there is quite an interest, a growing interest in that. I believe oak is it's important. I mean, it is playing an important role, and it's growing, so it's fine. Yeah.
So how do you? And I was trying to look at the oak market, whatever that means. How do you characterize the market for oak? Is it by product size? Is it by is it geographical? Is it by degree of toast? How do you look?
No, it is. It depends on the. Let's say I hear to the demands of our customer, and let's say that there is a trend. If we stay here in Barolo and Barbaresco, there is a trend towards a bit bigger barrel. So let's say 500 liters. So or bigger cask. And so what I try to understand is there is a trend back to how it was before with the untoasted big cask that we were making before. So it's that's important for to preserve the fruits of the wine, and on Nebbiolo grapes, on the same, probably in Montalcino and Brunello is the same thing. So that's and then on the reminder, if we talk about Napa, for example, there is also always there like a trend towards staying on the standard barrels, maybe a 22 millimeter, so the thinner stave barrel with a medium toast, medium plus toast. Can be toasted heads, depending on the winery, on the customer, and what they wanna do. So that's it depends. I mean, it's.
So one of the other questions that Suzanne had was she wanted you to tell us about how you barely got out of Chile before the before they shut the country down or something like that. You were in South America a little while ago, and
I was, well, actually I landed in Santiago when exactly the day that when there was everything was starting. So I don't remember, it was the 18th of October, something like that. And me and my wife were landing in Santiago right the day when everything was starting. And so that has been, quite hard, because I was experiencing the first time in my life a curfew, which was, I didn't have an idea what it was. So, and we're staying at the end, we were losing like half of the appointments. It was fine, we were safe, but from Italy, they were a bit scared, my parents, my friends, because they were watching the TV, and they were just seeing that, watching that there were like 1 million people in the square in Plaza Italia, which is the main square in Chile, and they were destroying hotels. They were, it was a disaster. So it's been not the best week to visit Chile. I've been there, quite a few times, and it's always been great. And I hope they can, now with the difficult economic situation, the virus. It's I hope we can all get out of this, overtake this issue as soon as possible. We'll see. I mean,
Mauro, it has been such a pleasure chatting with you. You're such a fount of information. You're so easy to chat with.
I'm glad.
So let's plan on getting back together. 2 o'clock next Wednesday, 8 o'clock your time next Wednesday.
Okay, perfect.
To close out
I'm glad
the other
we
side
can make a game. Okay.
Yeah. And we'll come into your place, because mine apparently.
I hope you can come. Absolutely, so that we can you can see the toasting, and we can enjoy a glass of wine and see the toasting live for sure.
Wonderful. Thank you so very much.
See you. Bye. Bye.
Take care. Bye.